And here I'm just kind of prepping the little rootstock that I've got here, because I want to get some of this in me, because today I don't feel so hot, and I'm concerned that I may have contaminated my water in the process of running the filter, because my old life straw, you have to pour the water into the top, and if you splash a little, well, directly below where you're pouring it in is the actual fresh water receptacle for your filtered water. So it's very, very easy to splash contaminated water into your container of fresh water. And that's one of the reasons why I always filter into a small container, like a 1 gallon at a time, and then go ahead, go out of there. So now we've got that, and got my little tea strainer ready. So this yellow part we're going to scrape off down to about where it starts looking yellow, and then that stuff is going to go, yeah, into the ball. And we don't need much of it, maybe just a couple teaspoons. There's obviously more than one way to skin a cat here. You can do individual scrapes or do this back and forth. This isn't too shabby. You just want the yellow stuff, sorry, you want to go down to the white just about. That's the inner, where you're going to no longer have any beneficial compounds, but that's a nice little bit there. And that berberine, that's a handy thing to know about. Know that there's a handy antimicrobial that is known to be effective. Very important to not just know that it's a pretty flower, but it's also very useful, or a pretty plant, I should say. And man, did I wake up feeling terrible. I've had to take a bunch of different supplements and medicines to try and combat the illness, but man, I almost needed to purge a bit. Pretty upset stomach, severe headache, loose bowels. That's probably too much information, but see, there you go. And you know, my fingers are starting to get a little bit yellow already, but that is plenty for today. For today, that is more than enough. And it's as simple as putting it into your tea ball and making it into a tea, so ready to go. And of course, as I'm making my hot water here, what wilderness or bushcraft tea wouldn't be complete without some pine needles. So I grabbed myself some pine needles here, and I'm going to dice them up and get them in here just for a little extra vitamin C, or ascorbic acid, as these contain. And that's a little handy way to kind of zhuzh up a medicinal tea and get some other stuff in there. There's pine needles everywhere. There's all sorts of medicinal plants that you could possibly use to help improve the performance of your medicinal tea. But I'm going to add some pine needles for sure. That's going to be really nice. And you're just going to dice them up individually into little bits. And it doesn't take much. These are very, very strong flavor. So I'm going to add that to my tea ball and get steeping. Well, it's been steeping for a few minutes, and as you can see, there's little bits of sediment in there, and certainly turning bright yellow. That yellow dye coming right out with the hot water. But if you wanted to get those little bits out of there, you could probably run this through a coffee filter to like a pour-over, Melita type little cone filter, and get that out of there. But I'm not too worried about a little sediment in the bottom of the cup. What I'm most worried about is the flavor, and it is astringent and bitter. So I'm going to add a little sweetener to it just to kind of help it out. And if you could find maybe some flowers that were really sweet tasting, you could drop those in there instead and get, a natural sweetener instead of something man-made or processed. There are some strawberry blooms around here, and I might try those. I know those are perfectly safe to eat, and they might even be a little bit sweet, but I'm definitely going to be dropping a little stevia in here just to get that strong bitter flavor out of there. But this is not an enjoyment tea. This is a medicine tea. So, as usual, icky tasting medicine. But hey, if it tastes bad, that probably means it's good for you. The bitterness, I would definitely say anything that tastes bitter often has a medicinal quality to it. So don't be afraid of bitter things. Often they're very good for you. Like this very bitter and astringent medicinal tea made of Oregon grape root and a little bit of pine needle.